In the northern reaches of Europe, where icy forests and granite ridges meet the Arctic winds, a quiet but profound military transformation is underway. The Nordic countries, Sweden, Finland, Norway, and their Baltic partner Lithuania, are moving to establish what could become the first truly integrated regional ground force in modern Europe. The centerpiece of this transformation is the joint acquisition of hundreds of CV90 MarkV infantry fighting vehicles, a program that could reshape the defense landscape of Northern Europe and set a precedent for regional defense cooperation across the continent. This joint initiative, now moving beyond the discussion phase into formal procurement planning, reflects both strategic urgency and industrial foresight. In April 2025, Sweden's Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson confirmed ongoing talks with Finland, Norway, and Lithuania for a shared purchase of CV90s, manufactured by BAE Systems Hägglunds in Örnsköldsvik. 2 months later, defense ministers from Norway, Finland, Sweden, Lithuania, Estonia, and the Netherlands signed a declaration of intent to explore collective acquisition and life cycle support of the CV90 platform. By September 2025, BAE Systems publicly acknowledged that it was preparing for what could become the largest CV90 order in history, expecting formal requests for quotation in 2026. For Lithuania, the program offers more than military power. Its defense minister announced that roughly 30% of the assembly and supply chain would be localized to strengthen the Baltic defense industry. The CV90 has long been a proven vehicle in Europe's mechanized forces, but its new Mark IV variant represents a generational leap. Equipped with advanced composite armor, active protection systems, digital battlefield management, and an upgraded 1,000 horsepower engine, it merges mobility, firepower, and electronic awareness into one adaptable platform. For nations that share harsh climates, mountainous terrain, and a common adversary to the east, it is the ideal backbone for a regional mechanized army. The Mark IV's modular architecture also allows national customization, from Norway's reconnaissance-optimized variant to Finland's heavier troop carrier configuration, without compromising interoperability during joint operations. Beyond hardware, the political meaning of this cooperation is immense. It signifies the evolution of the Nordic Defense Cooperation, NordFCO, from a forum for coordination into a mechanism for real joint procurement and shared logistics. For decades, Nordic states were separated by differing defense traditions. Sweden and Finland remained militarily non-aligned, while Norway and Denmark anchored themselves within NATO. The Ukraine war changed that calculus. With Finland now a NATO member and Sweden completing its accession, the region's defense architecture is being redesigned to operate as one. The CV90 alliance marks a physical manifestation of this shift, a unification not just in policy, but in steel, engineering, and doctrine. Strategically, the move reflects lessons learned from the war in Ukraine, that mobility, armor protection, and logistical depth define survivability on the modern battlefield. The Nordic and Baltic countries recognize that isolated national procurement cannot sustain large-scale combat. A unified CV90 fleet simplifies ammunition, maintenance, training, and supply chains, while enabling pre-positioned depots and shared spare parts across borders. In military terms, this translates to faster reinforcement, reduced downtime, and synchronized combat readiness across the entire northern flank of NATO. In economic terms, it spreads the financial burden across multiple states, allowing smaller economies like Lithuania and Estonia to access cutting-edge platforms that would otherwise be unaffordable. There are, however, structural challenges. Standardizing specifications across several countries is complex. Each military has distinct operational priorities. Finland emphasizes armor and endurance for its eastern forests. Sweden values amphibious mobility and network integration. And Norway requires Arctic survivability for Finnmark. Achieving alignment in command and control systems, weapon calibers, and protection levels demands careful negotiation. There are also budgetary questions. The estimated cost of several hundred CV90s could exceed 2 billion euros, and each government must justify such expenditure to domestic parliaments already under fiscal strain from energy transitions and inflation. Nonetheless, compared to independent national programs, collective acquisition could still save up to 15% through shared development and logistics. Industrial benefits may prove equally transformative. BAE Systems Hägglunds will remain the prime contractor, but Nordic governments are negotiating deeper local participation. Lithuania's proposed 30% share in final assembly is particularly significant, as it would elevate the Baltic states from mere buyers to contributors in the European defense industrial base. Finland's Patria and Norway's Kongsberg are expected to provide subsystems, including turret components, sensors, and digital networks, ensuring that expertise and employment are distributed regionally. The project, in other words, is as much an economic integration effort as it is a military one. The geopolitical implications stretch further still. By pooling procurement, the Nordics are constructing a self-sustaining mini ecosystem of land defense, one that reduces dependence on transatlantic supply chains and strengthens Europe's own deterrent credibility. For NATO, this creates a hardened northern anchor from the North Sea to the Baltic, allowing United States and United Kingdom forces to focus on rapid reinforcement rather than permanent forward deployment. For the European Union, it is a practical example of strategic autonomy within the alliance framework. And for Russia, it represents a new level of regional unity, a seamless mechanized barrier extending from the Gulf of Bothnia to the Arctic. In the background, the industrial realignment carries subtle reverberations toward Asia. Europe's accelerated rearmament, particularly in land systems, is tightening its supply chains in armor, steel, optics, and electronics, sectors where Chinese companies have traditionally played an indirect role. As the Nordics localize production and standardize defense materials, they are also insulating themselves from external dependencies. The Nordic Steel Alliance, as some analysts have called it, is thus both a military project and a strategic economic firewall. It mirrors patterns seen in the Asia-Pacific, where Japan, South Korea, and Australia pursue joint development to mitigate reliance on outside suppliers. The convergence of these models may gradually shape a multipolar defense industrial order in which regions maintain their own resilient production cores. Looking toward 2030, the joint CV90 initiative could evolve through three phases. The first, from 2025 to 2027, will finalize contracts, begin initial production, and establish an integrated logistics plan. The second, between 2027 and 2029, will deliver the first batches, conduct cross-border training, and standardize digital systems. The final phase, by 2030, will see fully interoperable mechanized brigades across the Nordic-Baltic region conducting regular exercises as a single operational entity. By then, the Northern Shield would no longer be a concept, but a functioning reality. A joint land force capable of deterring aggression, responding to crises, and coordinating seamlessly with NATO's High North Command. For analysts and observers, the CV90 project offers a window into how 21st century alliances may function not merely through treaties, but through shared production, technology, and doctrine. It demonstrates that small and medium-sized states, when integrated intelligently, can field capabilities once reserved for great powers. The lesson transcends Europe. As regional blocs in the Indo-Pacific or Middle East consider similar arrangements, the Nordic model could become a blueprint for collective strength in a fragmented world. Ultimately, this is not just about armored vehicles or industrial contracts. It is about redefining sovereignty through cooperation. The steel plates of each CV90 will carry the flags of multiple nations, but together, they will represent a single northern resolve. That security in an age of global uncertainty is built not by isolation, but by unity in capability. The joint CV90 initiative, born from necessity and shaped by pragmatism, may be remembered as the moment when Northern Europe turned its shared geography into shared defense, forging, quite literally, an alliance in armor. Stay tuned for more deep-dive analyses on how regional cooperation is rewriting the rules of military modernization. Subscribe, like, and share. If you believe that the future of defense lies not in competition alone, but in intelligent collaboration among nations ready to stand shoulder to shoulder when it matters most.